Welcome to Dramamines. Today we're going to talk about the 2023 Hong Kong movie, The Movie Emperor. Today, drama means self-righteousness, drama means being a coward, and drama means saying sorry.
And as always, a little bit of a summary for you. The Movie Emperor is about an actor from the golden age of Hong Kong cinema, and he must learn to adjust to this new Gen Z digital age. But instead of learning from past mistakes, he doubles down, covers up, and relies on the team around him to protect his carefully crafted public image.
So I think neither of us going in knew what this movie was about. I just am a huge Andy Lau fan, and I'll pretty much watch anything he's in. So we went to the movies and we watched this, and yeah, I thought it was going to be a comedy. I thought it was going to be like kind of mocking Andy Lau himself, because it's kind of very like loosely based off of his character and his image.
Yeah, it almost felt like a mockumentary tone to start with. Like, we're taking, like, here is me, I have a sense of humor about who I am, and the kind of ridiculousness of like super stardom coming out of like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s of Hong Kong cinema, when it was just, he was this larger than life figure. And I too kind of thought like, oh yeah, a fun, light mockumentary about, we see a lot of those, like, behind the scenes, poking fun at Hollywood. Like, that's what I kind of thought when this started.
Well, essentially kind of like an Entourage type of feel, where it's like comedy of errors.
Especially he's kind of like an old guy in this new world. And so it's like, oh, the bumbling old guy who doesn't know how to adjust to, like, being directed by a 19-year-old in a social media shoot or whatever.
Yeah. I was all for it. Like, after watching Goldfinger, I was like expecting this like lighthearted, funny, almost like Wong Jing style of like movie, and I think we were not prepared for what we really watched.
Yeah, the tone was tricky because it did kind of, it's weird, it didn't start out as a comedy, ha 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 ha, anyway. Like, we have the scene with him and his wife where she is obviously disgruntled, but still, like, to the public they're this happy married couple, but not really, and things are starting to come out. And so right away, the tone, I was like, whoa, that's not what I was really thinking. Like, this is taking kind of a serious, family drama or relationship drama. But then it really took a dark turn with kind of what proceeds, and like this kind of rabbit hole he goes down of self-preservation.
I had high hopes while I was watching it. Like, I wasn't expecting like a huge, like, very, very funny movie. I was expecting like a poignant celebrity learning to get along with the general public movie.
And that's not what it was. It really became a statement about celebrity and about the dangers of celebrity and the isolation of it, and this need to keep up this public image at all costs, because anything that would be coming out negative, you just have to squash it. And it's a very, again, like 80s, 90s way of looking at how information is gathered, right? Like, back in the day, it would be paparazzi and media outlets that come out with a story, and oh, we got a picture of him having dinner with some mystery woman, and who's the mystery woman? But now with social media and cameras everywhere, like, once information is out, it's impossible to stop. Like, there's no publicist on earth that can squash every tweet that happens in the world. And so I get, the movie they were trying to make, I was a little caught off guard by it. And probably that's our fault for not really understanding what movie we're walking into. And also, I don't really think there was much, at least that I saw, like, publicity for this movie. That I saw, like, everything that I had been paying attention to with Andy Lau was Goldfinger, and like, the two powerhouses back, at each other, Tony Leung and Andy Lau. But this one, I was like, oh, I don't need to know that much about it. Like, I'll get it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I did see trailers for it, and the trailers were very misleading. It was very much Andy Lau playing Andy Lau, pretty much. I mean, he wasn't, but he actually had a character name, but like he was basically like a huge superstar. They called him Yingdai, which literally means movie emperor, or like, you know, the person who wins the acting. Well, it's funny because when you call someone Yingdai, right, that's a title that means that you've won the best actor in an award, like probably the most prominent award ceremony, right? So like if you're an Oscar actor for best male actor or best female actor, you would be called Yingdai or Yinghao, which is king or queen, right? And so I think it's funny that it's called Yingdai because in real life, Annie Lau for sure is several times, you know, a winner of the best actor award. But in this movie, he's never won the award, and he's like trying so hard to get it, and how miserable he is when he doesn't get it.
Yeah, the scene where they're at the award ceremony and he's up for the big award, and then like Jackie Chan wins it or something. I think, right? Yeah. That was Jackie Chan. He has to go up on stage and he's forced to make this speech for Jackie, who's not in attendance conveniently. Was super, super awkward. And I kind of thought that was going to be the tone of the movie. That it's, you know, really poking fun at himself, how badly he wants this. And now he's been pulled on stage, like almost embarrassingly, like kind of made the butt of a pretty big joke at that point in the movie. And it's like, oh, this is a lot of potential of big comedy.
Yeah.
And then instead it kind of took this, I don't want to say spiteful tone, but this very like, I need to take my revenge on the film industry because like I can only get past this moment if I do actually win that award. Like he was so embarrassed personally, from that on stage, and he you know, he humbly keeps up his personal nice guy persona, this thing that like he isn't. Like on that stage, he's like humble and, you know,
charismatic,
and self-deprecating and congratulatory to all the other actors. It's all the stuff we hear from actors. I'm just glad to be nominated, and it's just, you know, an honor to be thought of in the same breath as these other actors. And then behind the scenes, he's like, why don't I have this award? Why don't I have it?
Yeah. So that is kind of like the tone of it in the beginning. And then it just takes like a worse turn as his journey to aim to make a movie where he's going to get this award.
So I did appreciate the subject matter a little bit because like Oscar bait movies are a real thing. And there comes a time in a lot of actors and directors' minds where they go, okay, time for me to make my Oscar movie. Where they have made their money and they've made their blockbusters or whatever, and they go, okay, now I need to only accept roles that are going to get me taken seriously as an actor. So I totally get the subject matter and where the movie was coming from. Like that all felt really real to me. And the fact that he's going to copy Jackie Chan's route, like, oh, he played a peasant, so I need to play a peasant. You're a common folk, you know, like that's what the common folk like. That's what I'll get my... So he's not even thinking of an original idea. He's just like, well, this is what worked.
I think he was doing a farmer.
Yeah, it was a farmer. It was like a in the like a rural, tiny village kind of like. Was it period too, or was it just?
I think it was just farmer.
I only say period because of the whole thing with the horse. I was like,
oh yeah, that's right.
It felt like it might have been slightly period, maybe not that old, but
yeah.
But either way, like he takes this idea that, well, Jackie Chan won an award playing this type of character, I'll do the same thing because that's what apparently works. And again, it's not true to his self, it's not true to his art. He's just trying to win an award.
Everything has to be real, so he's gonna like do all this stuff to experience the realness of what how a farmer lives.
Yeah, it was like his idea of real life, except for, again, he's just copying what other people have done before him. Like he chooses to be this farmer because Jackie Chan. Then he wants to do his own stunts because of Tom Cruise. And that, you know, it's like he's never being true to himself, but he feels like this is what real is.
Yeah, and the thing is when he's like, oh, I want to experience how real is, but then his attempts at trying to be real are just like a very outsider version of trying to be real. Whereas, like, oh, he wants to go to this little farm area, but then he doesn't want to be treated like a celebrity, but then he was like too kind of scared when he like experienced like real farmer life.
Well, he doesn't want to be treated like a celebrity until someone doesn't treat him like a celebrity. And then it's scary. You know, it's actually, real life is scary out here, and he's so out of touch.
Yeah. And then his idea of like living like how a normal person is staying at this not as fancy hotel, but it's like a perfectly fine hotel.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it other than like the bed squeaks.
But also he has like a whole entourage of people to make sure that everything is like smooth before they like, go away.
Again, it's a rich person, coddled person's idea of what real life. Roughing it.
Yeah.
It's like a caricature. Like, it's what he thinks in his mind roughing it is, and then he would tell his team, like, hey, I want to rough it. And then they're like, okay, guys, we got it. It's like, or you could leave the team at home, and you could just go check into a Motel 6 and live some life.
Motel 6 isn't even roughing it. Come on.
I don't know. It's pretty rough. Coming from my bougie ass, Motel 6 is pretty rough.
Oh, man.
I don't have an entourage when I stay at a Motel 6.
Motel 6 are perfectly nice. Like,
how dare you? I'm starting to question everything I know about you and hotels. Listen, hotel preferences aside, there's one thing that really rubbed me the wrong way about his character very early on, and it was in the scene where he goes into the cheaper hotel and he's walking around the room and he's just so proud of himself that he's living like low rent life. And he sits on the bed and he squeaks the bed and he finds like the squeak of the bed like charming. And it just reminds me of these rich, entitled douchebags that just find other people's life so interesting. Oh, that's so interesting.
And entertaining to them.
It's like, oh, isn't it cute that you live in such a shitty house and have shitty furniture? That's so cute. Oh my gosh, look at the dust. And you're like, you know what? Fuck you. This is how we live. Like, we don't have maids wiping our ass and publicists that tell us where to be at every waking moment of the day. And when you do, I have a lot of sympathy for actors sometimes because I think they self-isolate so much that it's not their fault that they kind of fall away from reality, but they do. But it annoys the hell out of me, this attitude of like, oh, look at how interesting your life is. Look at how quaint and cute and entertaining. It's just like reading a book to them. And it's like, well, I'm not an animal and this isn't the zoo. And that was like his attitude towards most of the quote unquote real people in this. It's like he's walking through a zoo. He's walking through the farm taking pictures of someone else's life as if it's a museum exhibit. Like he's at the Louvre taking pictures and like, oh, look at this exhibit where pigs live.
And the thing is, that is the good part of it, drawing the fact that this is his character, right? So the fact that we're getting annoyed at these little points is a good thing because that is something that they're trying to show and make fun of this celebrity.
Yeah, definitely like accurate, poignant in a way. Like it makes total sense. I feel like it's very believable. I think his portrayal is very honest. And coming from someone like Andy, who has been at the pinnacle of success for a very long time, who's been one of the biggest movie stars in the world at one point.
I mean,
he knows what it's like to be isolated.
With Asia in general, like, people still know who Andy Lau is. People still say, like, in movies or in other TV shows, they're like, you think you're Andy Lau? Like, he's such a reference. Like, he's such, like, a mountain for other actors to climb, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. So for him to kind of peel back that mask feels like, I don't want to say brave because I think that's a stupid way of like, that's like a kind of like smelling my own farts way of like, oh, he's very brave for taking on this role. But it's not. but at the same time, like, it's very self-aware, I guess, is what I would say.
Yeah. And that's the thing also, like, for the longest time with Andy Lau, like, I think back in the 80s, I don't really know what it was that he did, but it was something like, I don't know if he, like, cursed or something like that. And he's like, well, that's just how I am. Like, that's me. And, someone had said to him, you know, yes, but now you're like a star and everyone takes after you and you're this role model for them. And like, they're watching every little thing you do. And so when you're doing something bad or you're cursing or whatever, in a sense, you're teaching other people to do that and say it's okay to do that, right? And so ever since then, he's been like this. He's modeled himself to be like this perfect image with a lot of other testimonies of like what a great person he is and how like if you're ever down on your luck, he's like the first to like, you know, lend a helping hand. He has this image in the public that he's absolutely perfect and amazing. And for him to do this role, and it's like, hey, no one's perfect. And I actually watched a previous interview with him. It was promoting Goldfinger, but Dudu Chang basically was like, you seem like you have no like attitude or like temper. You're just so mild-mannered. And he's like, I'm not though. Like I have like moments where I just break things and get really mad and whatever. And I think maybe with this movie he's trying to show that. Also, not that, I don't know, who knows what he is like in real life, but
We'll never know. I can also imagine the pressure of being kind of the representative of your culture's movie industry. If you think about the time where Hong Kong cinema was just exploding onto the world stage, he was the face of Hong Kong cinema to the world and to all of Asia. And like a lot of people who in America who know Andy Lau know him from, you know, Infernal Affairs and these movies that like came across the ocean. And so now not only is this good guy image, do you have it as a role model, but you also have it as a representative of your country and your culture, and your whole industry is banking on you not being an asshole.
yeah.
So as far as that aspect goes of it, I can't say I enjoyed it, but I definitely respected it. I respected the attempt, the truth behind it. I don't know if I loved it. I don't know if I loved that kind of story. I don't know if I wanted to see that kind of story. I think I would have much rather preferred the popcorn mockumentary that we thought we were going to go see. But again, I can't hate that aspect of it because it does feel like it was well done. It was well set up, I'll say.
See, I think it was well set up. And I actually like enjoyed it up until it just went really like, I don't know, it kind of, his character turned very gross to me. Structurally, it felt really off. So it felt like it was trying to tell too many stories.
Oh my gosh, I agree so much with that. Like, it felt like, well, not, I guess for me, not too many stories, but it was trying to have too many themes, too many lessons being learned, and then it got lost.
Yeah. Yeah, because I also felt like it was kind of like wandering, so then it didn't feel like there was any story.
Yeah, one scene didn't lead to the next. It was kind of just, then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Like, it didn't feel like one scene caused the next to happen, which to me, in a character drama, it's really important, for me anyway, for one scene to kind of drive the next scene. And it kind of, they all kind of felt disconnected. And it just felt like a series of events that were happening to him and around him and that he was causing.
But I also just felt like he was like not very smart.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, as a film professor once said to me, if we wanted them to be smart, we'd call them thinkers, but we'd call them actors.
Oh, goodness.
That's not my quote, don't come for me. But it kind of, you know, he's playing an actor and he's not used to dealing with human things.
True. Or thinking for himself, really.
That's what I mean when I say I kind of feel for actors sometimes, because if you think about the life of an actor, you are so managed. You have publicity people, you have managers and agents and producers and so many people guiding you in certain ways. And sometimes it's good advice and sometimes it's horrible advice. But even on the day, like, actors are picked up at the front door by a van. They're told exactly what time to be there. They're taken exactly where they need to be. And they're met by a production assistant who takes them to the makeup and to their trailer. And then someone gets them and takes them to breakfast. And they don't make a decision, really, at all. Like, once they're in the machine, they're just in the machine. And they don't really think for themselves. They have scripts. They're told what to say, what to do. And they're just so managed, every bit of it. So when they're given their free time, some of them don't know what to do with themselves, and I would imagine it's so isolating. And yeah, I think we all like to be pampered and we all like to be treated well, but it feels like I have a lot of respect for actors. I give them a lot of crap because they sometimes, as a writer, make your life very difficult, but at the same time, it's a really, really hard job. Like, it's more than just saying lines and reciting dialogue. Like, it's a very difficult job. And I think that's what we see in the modern day, some of these influencers that come off to Hollywood to be a big actor and go, oh, that's a very different skill than I do. It's like, yes, it is. You have no idea what you're.
So I think earlier when I said that it felt like they had so many different stories that they were trying to tell. I think it was more like maybe they have too many messages they're trying to, like, send to the audience. And I think, like, at this point, I'm like, well, what is it? Like, what do you want us to know? Like, what do you want to tell us? Because it just seems like, because part of it felt like, okay, he went down this, like, weird spiral of events where he's just an a-hole and the public has now decided he's an a-hole, right? And rather than, like, apologizing and taking responsibility for being an a-hole, he, like, gets on his soapbox and was like, like, you guys are wrong. Like, I did all this for, my art and as an actor, and things like that. And he can't possibly admit he's in the wrong. And he definitely can't. The words, I'm sorry, literally cannot get out of his mouth.
Right.
So that's, like, one message, right? But it's also another message of just this, like, old guy that's, like, left behind in, like, technology and, like, the new way of thinking and, like, how things work in the world. Like, he doesn't understand it and he doesn't, like, appreciate it and has no interest in learning it and accepting it, right?
He wants to do things the way we've always done things, which is, well, this has always worked. This is how I do it. This is my process, which is a very actory thing. This is my process, and it needs to be this way. Why would I change? Just because this is now shot digitally rather than on a big fat film camera, like, art is art and cinema is cinema, and why do I need to change with the times?
Yeah. And so, but it's like, but it was so meshed together and so, but then also felt so separate that they didn't really tell a complete story. So then in the end, you just feel kind of empty, like, not really feeling either.
And I think the ending of it really shows the weakness of the movie, because there isn't a core relationship that he repairs in the film. And he has several relationships in the film. He has his wife, he has his kid, he has the young director, he has his personal assistants, like, he has all these people around him. But none of them become the kind of surrogate for the theme, where it's like, well, if he just repairs his relationship with his wife and his son, then we can kind of understand what the movie's about now. Because, the movie is about family is important, whatever we want to say about that. But he kind of just, at the end, kind of ticks off a bunch of little things. Like, he has a scene with his kid, and he has a scene with his assistant. He has all these little tiny scenes that are kind of like, and that's that thematic wrapped up. And you're like, I know, but we're not feeling any of it.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with the segue, if that's how you want to end your movie, it feels like, to me, you think the most important theme in the movie is an old man that needs to adjust to the times. But that's not most of the movie. most of the movie doesn't really have much to do with like, look at old man, you are not good at new technology. Most of it's about apology, coming clean, understanding who you are, not being isolated,
taking responsibility,
all that. But then they choose to end the last frame of the movie is like, look at this old man on a Segway or a hoverboard or whatever it is. And I'm like, that to me makes me think you don't know what your movie is either. And I think that's the problem. But what do you think, if you were to say, what is the central theme of this movie? Like, what would you say? What do you think it is?
For me, it's taking responsibility. But the thing is, it came too late, honestly. And his taking responsibility felt so, like, generic, because literally his one way to take responsibility is to put out that social media video apologizing to the one guy that he, like, basically tore up this guy's van. A note, like a faceless guy that he doesn't know. But it's like, that's where you lost it, but also, like, that wasn't the most important. I get that he's reaching out and trying to, like, you know, make amends, and, like, it's weird that that's the thing that he chooses to say sorry for. I mean, he should have, like, it never should have gotten to the point of where it got. But that's a weird place to say sorry to, because, like, again, he had relationships with people who are more important to him that he should have said sorry to. Like his wife and his son and his assistant that literally, like, fixes all of his problems. And the girl that he tried to have not even a relationship, he tried to have sex with.
A fling with, yeah.
Like, there are so many people to say sorry to, and, like, that was like the outcome of the whole movie, is to say sorry to the guy that he, like, fucked up his car.
Yeah, I was disappointed in that, because if you were to ask me what the central theme is, I do think the central theme is taking responsibility and not running from your problems. And those two things can be tied together, but they separated them out. So they kind of separated this idea of facing your problems and apologizing, which those can be the same thing. And so I felt the easiest way to wrap up the theme in my mind would have been, give him the opportunity to run away from something, give him the director woman, give him the wife, give him something, the assistant, someone to confront him. And instead of turning and tucking tail and running like he always does, he finally faces up. And whether or not he says, I'm sorry, he says the actual words, he does some action.
Yes, but the actual words are very important in the movie, so he had to say the actual words.
I know, but they only are important because they made them important. Because they decided to make the words the most important part of it, because they knew where they were going. They knew that this was going to end with him saying, I'm sorry. So they made him very unable to say, I'm sorry. They could have made him very disingenuous and he said, sorry, or said something else, but they made that such a big moment that then they had to pay that off. And I think the sorry could have been part, but I don't know how you felt, but to me that the way he apologizes, it felt to me like more of the same. It's just words, dude. How many times, maybe you haven't said the words, I'm sorry, but how many times have you made a public apology or told your wife that, you know, this is the last time that this sort of thing will happen or whatever, and it's always been not true. So this just felt like more words. It didn't feel like the culmination of learning a lesson.
It's true. It's true that it felt like more words, because even in the video it didn't feel that, like, sincere, but also to his character and, like, in the whole movie itself, he's never said those words. Every time anyone's ever, like, confronted him about anything, he always goes, well, what do you want? Or
how do I make it right?
Yeah, he never ever says the words. It's like that they did make that important.
Oh yeah.
For his character, because he never ever is willing to say the words, I'm sorry.
Right. I just wish in addition to that they would have made the actions also important, and so it's not just the words that were important.
Yeah.
Because it felt like they were set up for that too. There's so many, you know, he's in the hotel and the power goes out, And so instead of trying to fix it or looking for a fuse box or doing anything that a useful human would do, he rushes to his car to go sleep in his car. Like, he takes every opportunity to extricate himself from any uncomfortable situation, big or small. He just can't handle it. And I just wanted to see him one time handle a situation. Like, I would have loved it if he would have been able to handle the pig thing. Because the pig gets out and the pig goes crazy, and he's kind of coming through at that point. And I think you're so right when you say the apology part and like the culmination of his growth happens way too late. It could have happened right there where everyone else is running from the pig and he wrangles it and he takes responsibility for this wild pig that's running through his life. There's a metaphor there. There's something animalistic there. That would have been such a great opportunity for him to kind of grab the movie by the scruff.
Yeah.
And make a choice. And then him realizing by doing that, he just actually became the thing he's always wanted, which is to be real. And then you can have an apology. And then he can go on his tour with all the characters and make amends and do the My Name is Earl and right all the wrongs. But the way it was, it's just like avoid. I'm sorry. And the words were like built up to be important. It's just felt, like you said, too late.
Yeah, I was expecting him to save that pig.
Yeah, that was a big turning point for you in the movie. It's the pig.
I have a really hard time saying this, but because Andy Lau has been such like I don't even know how to say what he is to me, because like he had been my goal for like most of my life since I was 5 years old. I thought I was going to marry him, but at this moment in time I decided to choose the pig over Andy Lau. Like the moment that pig was not saved, I was like, I'm done with his character, I'm done with the movie, I'm done with it all.
Yeah, I could feel the heat coming off the top of your head. You're like, they better not kill this fucking pig.
I was very fucking mad that pig was basically sacrificed for a bad fucking movie.
Yeah, it felt, I mean, I don't think any pigs were harmed in the making of this movie, and I don't think any horses were harmed, everyone out there, but, because I do think that's the opposite of the thing they're trying to say, is like, oh, art at all costs is no longer art at all costs. It doesn't matter if a horse gets hurt, it's for my art. I think the movie is trying to say the opposite of that, so it feels like they would be making it a little more ethically than they did in the old days. But I knew that was going to get you. I was like, oh, I can't believe they just did that. And I get for the shock value, and I get for like the idea that he's really spiraling, but it also didn't feel like that moment affected him all that much either. Like I'm trying to thinking back on the movie, like what is the moment that made him go, oh, yeah, I gotta change some shit. It was just kind of the culmination of the whole movie, and then at some point the movie needed to end.
Yeah.
And so they were like, oh, that's enough shit on top of the pile for him to like make an apology video now. But like, what was the thing that you looked at yourself in the mirror and went, oh, I can't stand myself now? Yeah,
he didn't really have that. Because right after the pig thing, he also, again, ran away.
Yeah, immediately. And avoid. So I think my biggest two problems with the movie are kind of the lack of cohesion between scenes and themes. Because I do feel like movies can have more than one message. They just have to be delivered clearly and not get in each other's way. And the themes have to hold hands. And these themes, even though they're so similar, they kept feeling like they were fighting for control of the movie.
Yeah, I think you said it right, where, like, my main thing was that there was nothing specifically that made him learn his lesson. It was just like, oh, it's about 102 minutes. It's time to learn my lesson. Like, it's time for me to say I'm sorry. It's not, like, you don't really think he learned his lesson.
You know what movie this reminded me of? The movie Flight with Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Where I felt it could have been the same movie. It's about a pilot who gets drunk, but he heroically saves a plane. But the entire movie, he lies, does drugs, and gets super drunk, and the team around him just protects him. And he lies and lies and lies about it until the end of the movie. When it's time for the movie to end, he just can't possibly lie anymore. And I've had so many people try to justify it to me, like, no, like it was because that woman's reputation, he finally, like, he couldn't, like, really besmirch her reputation. Like, if that was important to him, he would have done that way earlier in the movie. He let a lot of people think she was a piece of shit for a long time. And then just the movie needed to end, so he's like, actually, yeah, it was me. And I felt the same way toward this, of watching just a person deconstruct themselves and make childish, silly mistakes over and over and over again, expecting no consequences, continuing to make childish, silly mistakes over and over again, complaining to everyone else that they're making childish and silly mistakes. And then the movie needed to end, so they're like, actually, you know what? I learned my lesson and I'm going to be a good person now. I don't buy it.
Now it's time to rate this movie. My rating is Land Sickness. And I am a huge Andy Lau fan, and I will continue to be his fan, and I will continue to watch his movies and listen to his music, things like that. But this movie just did not live up to my expectations. And so Land Sickness, that is where I'm at.
I think I go one worse with Swearing to Never Board Again. I think the only thing that was a positive for this movie was it felt like the performances were very real, and it felt like the premise, what they started with, felt like it had potential, but the rest of it, the execution, really just kind of felt messy. Just felt like a big giant mess. I had no expectations really going in. I didn't know what we were really going to see. But also not my kind of movie, honestly. I don't really like to see people trip over themselves for 2 hours and never learn anything from it. It's frustrating. This movie frustrated me.
Yeah. I'm not huge on chaos. I can handle chaos, but is it my cup of tea? No.
Are these the worst ratings we've given so far? Like, to something we've reviewed fully?
Oh, reviewed fully?
I mean, I know we had our, like, this is garbage, we dropped them episode.
Yeah.
But this is pretty close to the bottom of what we've rated so far.
Well, Code.
Oh, Code Japan.
I think it was, like,
yeah, it was
really
pretty bottom
bad,
of the barrel.
yeah.
But I don't think there was anything redeeming about that. And at least this has Andy Lau in it.
Yes.
And Tony Leung, the other one. Not Tony Leung from Goldfinger, the other Tony Leung.
His little cameo.
He gets a cameo.
Yeah, I liked his cameo.
That's what I wanted the whole movie to be. So.
Yeah, I would really like a movie, like an Andy Lau movie, that had just a ton of, like, cameos from, like, the golden era of Hong Kong cinema, and, like, all the people that he's worked with before, which is a lot. And I don't actually know if he still holds the record, but he had, like, a Guinness World Record of being the main lead in the most movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, he did a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's like, gosh, I don't remember what year it was, but, like, by the time he did Fighters Blue, I believe, it was his 100th movie as the leading actor.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, this one, not as good as The Heyday.
Yes, definitely. But neither is Hong Kong cinema, I have to say.
That feels like we could do a whole episode on the rise and fall of Hong Kong cinema.
Yeah. Anyway, that is our rating. And our rec, I think, to get the bad taste out of our mouths with this Andy Lau movie, I'm going to recommend an Andy Lau song.
Well, which one? Because he has quite a few songs. I mean, for those who don't know, out in Dramaland, Andy Lau was not just the biggest movie star in all of Hong Kong for a long time, was also the biggest music star, pop star, whatever you want to call him, also. So that was something that really surprised me when I first realized who Andy Lau was, that he was not only the biggest movie star, but also the biggest recording artist. So There's probably a lot to choose from.
I can't decide, you know, because there's my classics, some of my faves, or I can recommend a newer one. Like, where should I go?
No, not the newer one. We watched the newer movie. Like, give me something like a warm blanket. Give me an Ice Rain. Give me a...
Oh, gosh, he has so many good songs. I'm going to recommend my favorite song.
Okay.
This is the song that I love to sing along to. I remember I was in high school and I was waiting for my mom to come pick me up after school, and I was just sitting there with my Walkman, and...
Date yourself much. Kids, for those who don't know, a Walkman is kind of like a phone, except for there's no phone or camera or apps. It just plays cassette tapes. If you want to know what a cassette tape is, you got to Google it. We don't have enough time to explain it.
So, my favorite song is called Ching Sam De Ge Gui.
Oh boy, how would we go about Googling that to find that song?
I don't know, because on Spotify it's all in Chinese. Ching Sam De Ge Gui, you could say, is like a sincere something you say, like a sentence, or not a sentence, but like a phrase. So like a sincere phrase.
Okay, interesting.
It's kind of like the kind of translation of Ching Sam De Ge Gui. It's on Spotify, and you can, since it's a song, you can go onto our Instagram account, and I will have a sample on there for you. And then I will possibly put on the Spotify link for this song.
Oh, perfect. That'll be a way to find it.
Yes.
I just picturing you now waiting after school with your Walkman and your slap bracelet and like...
No. Slap bracelets are before then.
What kind of hair? Were the crimping hair? And you had maybe some tie-dye shirt on.
Oh my god, I was a master of like the extremely high bangs. Like the cowlick, right? Like, you don't understand how much hairspray I went through to get my hair as high as possible.
Big hair days.
But it's just like the front, like that cowlick that was really in the...
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying.
Oh my god.
I lived in that era as well.
Gosh. But no, that was like a while ago. Like, this song that I was listening to, it was more like high school.
Okay.
So, you know, the cowlick was gone.
But the Walkman remained.
The Walkman remained. Yeah. Anyway. So that is our episode for today, and thanks for joining us. We will see you next week.
Thank you for listening.